Hello there. Hey, I want to tell you a story about the two livestock guardian dogs we have here on the perch in the farm, Beau and Bentley. But before I do need to provide a little bit of word of caution to you. This is the side of the farm life that they don't tell you about in the books. But yeah, it's real things that happen. And so, you know, it does involve predators, and it does involve the death of a small animal, and it does deal with our livestock guardian dogs. So you can kind of do the math, kind of see where I'm headed with this. So if you think you'd be offended by such things, you know, click away from this video. Otherwise, I think you'll kind of enjoy this story. All right, so our story starts with this knucklehead here, Beau. He's 16 months old, give or take a month or two. You know, we picked him up here. He was the first livestock guardian dog we picked up here. He's a Great Pyrenees, obviously, but the story starts with him. So the other day, Charlotte and I are having a cup of coffee in the morning, and we're looking out the window, and we see Beau come walking across the front of our house here. And he had something in his mouth, and Charlotte's like, is that a rabbit? Is that a rabbit? Has Beau got a rabbit? And so sure enough, I get up and I look out the window, and Beau goes walking across the front of our house here, and he has a rabbit. He caught himself a rabbit. And the rabbit was obviously dead the way it was hanging. And so I actually started panicking a little bit, because I'm like, okay, well, I don't want him eating the rabbit, probably for the obvious reasons. So I wasn't sure how was I gonna deal with this and how he was gonna react, because when he killed our turkey and our chicken before, he actually would run away with them and I couldn't catch him. But this time, you know, so I went outside, started walking after him, and yeah, what's up, Big Beau? Here, look over here. You know, so I start walking after him, and he does start walking away from me. Not really running though, but he just starts walking away from me. And sure enough, you know, he walks towards our carport, and he paused just for a moment, and just instinctively I tell him, hey, Beau, leave it. You know, that's one of the commands they tried to teach him at obedience school. I didn't know if it'd matter if he would actually listen or not, but, you know, so I went ahead and, you know, tried. I'm like, Beau, leave it. And sure as shit, he stops, he drops the rabbit on the ground, and then he backed off and looked at me and said, what are you gonna do, Dad? You know, and then he sat there and he's like, you know, hey, what should go on? And so he started to back away, and I was able to get the rabbit from him. I figured by putting him out there in the front pasture, the vultures will come get him, and you know, it'll be okay. You know, circle of life thing where, you know, don't let the rabbit go to waste. So that's the first part of the story. So let's go take a look at Bentley, and let me bring him into the fold. Come on, Bentley. Bentley, come here. Come on. All right. So yesterday, I was telling you the story about Beau and the rabbit. This morning, I want to talk about how these two work together. So the other night, I was wrapping up my last meeting for the evening, got off the phone around 8:30, and these two guys were barking. That's not unusual. But this time the bark was totally unusual though. It was like no other bark I have heard before. And this was brand new. And what was interesting was I knew something wasn't right. So you know, I decided to go out and take a look. And as I walked outside, we have a little gazebo here over by our pasture. And they were both kind of standing around looking at the ground at something. And I didn't know what was going on until I walked up and I realized Bentley was sitting there, and he had caught an opossum. He had it in his mouth, and it was just sitting there. And Beau was standing around looking at him. And so what ended up happening was an opossum came into our little area, our fenced-in area, and you know, started to go, you know, who knows what was going on, but these two guys decided to dispatch of it. And what was so remarkable is, you know, like I said, Beau has this tremendous food aggression, and I figured he would be going after Bentley over it, but they didn't. They didn't. They were just respecting each other. They were working together, and they were looking at me like, hey, Dad, are you proud of what we just did? You know, we just took care of another predator that came into our property. It was just the most remarkable thing ever. So I'm like, well, shit, now what do I do, though? So I knew I had to get the opossum out to the pasture to give him to the buzzards. So I went inside, got my gloves, and when I did that, Bentley picked him up and started to walk away. And, you know, Beau just kind of followed him and gave him space. And then I'm like, well, okay, this is gonna be fun. How am I gonna get the opossum out away from Bentley? So I said the same thing that I said to Beau earlier. I said, you know, Bentley, leave it. And he stopped and he dropped it. And he sat there and backed up and sat down and started looking at me like, hey Dad, aren't you proud of what we just did? And so I was able to get the opossum, carry it out to the pasture and get rid of it. It was remarkable. And so that wraps up the story of the great whites. You know, I learned and saw them actually work together. And it's funny because Bentley was brought in as a senior dog. He went into retirement. He came from a working farm. We adopted him. Beau is, you know, a young pup we've had from, you know, since like 10, 12 weeks old or so. And all this time, you know, you don't get the sense that they're working together until you actually see them work together. And to watch them, the way they handled the opossum together and respected each other, listened to my commands, allowed me to pick it up and remove it, you know, that's all instinctual. And that's what these dogs are. They're highly instinctual. Guardian duties is what they know. That's how they work. That's the things they do. And they're really, really freaking good at it. And I got to see that firsthand. It was just this miraculous experience. I have so much more confidence now knowing that our property is protected. And this is really coming into fruition, the way they work. Just really cool. So I thought I'd share that story with you. Hope you enjoyed it. You know, hit the like and subscribe button if you like these videos. I'm just getting started in my YouTube journey and I could use your support. Tell your friends. Yeah, thank you. Have a good day.